This 11,000-year-old site is twice as old as the pyramids, and the government just banned archaeologists from digging deeper. Why? Because what they found buried there could destroy everything you learned in history class, and I mean everything. An archaeologist died trying to tell the world about this, and you're about to find out why. What I'm about to tell you isn't some conspiracy theory. This is real. Documented, verified by scientists from major institutions around the world: Harvard, Oxford, the German Archaeological Institute, published in peer-reviewed journals, confirmed by radiocarbon dating, ground-penetrating radar, and detailed archaeological surveys conducted over 20 years. And yet, most people have never heard of it. Ask 100 people on the street, maybe one knows. Ask 100 college graduates, maybe 5. This should be taught in every history class. It should be on every documentary channel. It should be common knowledge. But it's not. Why? Because if this site means what some researchers think it means, then everything you learned in school about human civilization is wrong. Not incomplete. Not slightly inaccurate. Wrong. Fundamentally, completely, totally wrong. The entire timeline of human development, the one you memorized in school, the one in every textbook, the one taught at every university, falls apart. The story begins in southeastern Turkey, 1994. The region is harsh, dry, ancient. The landscape is rolling hills and sparse vegetation. This is ancient Mesopotamia, the supposed cradle of civilization, the birthplace of agriculture, writing, cities. But by 1994, archaeologists thought they'd found everything worth finding here. The area had been picked over for decades, surveyed, cataloged, understood. A farmer named Shavak Yildiz is plowing his field like he's done 1,000 times before. It's late spring. The sun is brutal, the kind of heat that makes you dizzy. The land is hard and dry, cracked earth. Nothing grows here easily. This is subsistence farming, back-breaking work just to survive. His plow hits something. The impact jolts through his arms. Not the usual resistance of packed dirt. Something solid, metallic sound against stone. A sound that echoes across the empty field. He stops, wipes sweat from his face, starts digging with his hands, expecting a buried rock. Maybe part of an old foundation. The area has seen civilizations come and go. You find remnants everywhere, usually nothing important. A stone emerges from the soil, but not just any stone. It's carved, shaped deliberately, precisely, like a letter T, massive, at least 3 feet across where it breaks the surface, smooth, ancient, the kind of thing that shouldn't be buried in a farmer's field in the middle of nowhere. Hook 1, 130. But here's where it gets crazy. This stone weighs over 16 tons. 16 tons. That's heavier than 3 African elephants, and it's carved from a single piece of limestone. No joints, no seams. One solid block, with precision, with artistry, with skill that requires advanced tools, planning, engineering knowledge, skill that shouldn't exist. Not here, not at this time in history. Shavak calls the local authorities. They tell him to stop. Don't touch it anymore. Don't dig. Don't tell anyone. They'll send someone to look at it. An expert. 3 months later, that expert finally arrives. Bureaucracy moves slowly in rural Turkey. His name is Klaus Schmidt, German archaeologist from the prestigious German Archaeological Institute. 43 years old, weathered face from decades working in the sun, intense eyes, the kind of person who's dedicated their entire life to one thing. He's spent his career excavating ancient sites across the Middle East, Syria, Jordan, Iraq. He's seen everything, or thought he had. Bronze Age settlements, early pottery, stone tools, walls, foundations. He's dug up civilizations that existed 5,000, 6,000 years ago. He thinks this will be nothing. The Turkish authorities call him for everything. Most of the time, it's nothing. Roman ruins, Byzantine foundations, medieval pottery. He's not expecting much. Another false alarm, another wasted trip. The moment he sees that first pillar, everything changes. His hands start shaking. He tries to hide it, but can't. He goes completely pale. His breathing changes, becomes shallow, rapid. He stands there for 10 minutes, not moving, not speaking, just staring at the carved stone emerging from the ground. His assistant asks if he's okay. "This is impossible," Schmidt whispers, his voice barely audible. He doesn't explain. He just starts walking, surveying the area, looking at the landscape with completely new eyes, calculating, processing, his mind racing through possibilities, through implications. He sees the hill, the way it rises from the flat plain, the way it dominates the horizon. Hundreds of feet across, symmetrical, too perfect to be natural. "This isn't natural," he says, his voice stronger now, certain. "This entire hill is man-made." Hook 2-3 minutes, and wait until you hear how big it actually is. Ground-penetrating radar would later reveal the truth. The hill isn't covering one structure. It's not even covering 5 structures. It's covering at least 20 massive stone circles, maybe more, each one built with mathematical precision, each one containing dozens of these giant carved pillars, each one requiring years of coordinated labor. The entire complex spans over 22 acres. Let me put that in perspective. That's 16 football fields of ancient structures, all buried, all hidden, all waiting underground for 11,000 years. Schmidt knew immediately. This was the discovery of a lifetime, the kind of find archaeologists dream about, the kind that changes careers, changes history. "Get me a team," he says. "A big team. I need specialists, geologists, engineers, dating experts, and get me funding. A lot of funding. This is going to take years." That was 1995, the beginning of an obsession that would consume the rest of Schmidt's life. He would spend the next 20 years at this site, living in a small house nearby, working 12, 14, 16 hours a day, in the brutal heat, in the cold winters, through dust storms, through everything, publishing dozens of papers, giving hundreds of interviews, appearing in documentaries, speaking at conferences all over the world, begging for funding from anyone who would listen, fighting with bureaucrats who didn't understand the significance, arguing with colleagues who refused to believe what he was finding, colleagues who said he was exaggerating, seeing what he wanted to see. Some of his peers called him crazy, said his interpretations were too radical, too revolutionary, that he was making too much of it. He didn't care. He knew what he'd found. He knew it would change everything. He just needed time. Time to excavate properly, time to document, time to understand, time to prove it to the world. He would die there in 2014. Heart attack. Sudden, unexpected. He was only 61 years old. Still working. Still fighting. Still trying to make people understand. The site is called Göbekli Tepe. In Turkish, it means Potbelly Hill, a boring, mundane name for what might be the most important archaeological discovery in human history. Hook 3 fart tier 430. And here's where your brain is going to explode. The pyramids of Egypt, 4,500 years old. Everyone knows them. They're in every textbook, every documentary, every museum. The symbol of ancient civilization. Stonehenge in England, 5,000 years old. Mysterious, iconic, ancient beyond imagination. Göbekli Tepe, 11,600 years old. Stop. Read that number again. 11,600 years old. Let me put this in perspective. When the Egyptians were building the pyramids, when pharaohs ruled and scribes recorded history on papyrus, Göbekli Tepe had already been buried and forgotten for 6,000 years. 6,000 years. That's the entire span from ancient Egypt to right now. From hieroglyphics to smartphones. From bronze tools to nuclear power. And Göbekli Tepe is older than that entire span again. This site is older than pottery, older than agriculture, older than the wheel, older than metal tools, older than written language, older than cities, older than domesticated animals, older than permanent settlements, older than everything we associate with civilization. And yet it's there, real solid. You can visit it, you can touch the stones, you can see the carvings. Hook 4, 6 o'clock. But wait, it gets worse, much worse. According to every textbook, every university course, every documentary you've ever watched, the people who lived 11,600 years ago were primitive hunter-gatherers, not early humans, not developing societies, primitive, living in caves or simple shelters made of branches and animal skins, following animal herds across vast territories, using the most basic stone tools, hand axes, scrapers, spear points chipped from flint, no permanent settlements, no agriculture, no domesticated animals, no organization beyond small family groups or bands of maybe 20 to 50 people, no complex social hierarchy, no specialized labor, no art beyond simple cave paintings, no architecture, no engineering, no planning, no nothing. Just nomadic tribes trying to survive, hunting whatever they could find, gathering whatever plants were edible, moving constantly, living hand to mouth, day to day, one bad season away from starvation. That's what we've been teaching for over 100 years. It's the foundation of everything, the cornerstone of anthropology and archaeology. The narrative is simple, clean, logical. Humans were primitive for hundreds of thousands of years, living as simple hunter-gatherers just like other animals. And then around 10,000 years ago, something changed. Someone figured out you could plant seeds. Agriculture was invented. People settled down. Villages formed, then towns, then cities, then writing, then civilization, linear progression, evolution, development. It makes sense. It's easy to teach. It fits the evidence we've found, or thought we'd found. Göbekli Tepe destroys that entire narrative, shatters it, makes it impossible to maintain with a straight face. Because these primitive hunter-gatherers, these people who supposedly had no organization, no technology, no capability for complex projects, somehow moved stones weighing up to 50 tons. 50 tons. That's as heavy as a fully loaded semi-truck. Without wheels, without metal tools, without pack animals like horses or oxen because those hadn't been domesticated yet. They moved these massive blocks from quarries located over half a mile away, across rough terrain, up a hill, and then stood them upright, perfectly balanced, perfectly positioned. How? How did they do that? Modern engineers struggle to move stones that size even with cranes and hydraulics. But these primitive people did it with stone tools and human labor. Somehow, they carved intricate sculptures into the stone. Foxes prowling, lions attacking, scorpions crawling, vultures perched, snakes coiling, wild boars charging, each one carved with incredible precision, with detail that shows intimate knowledge of animal anatomy, the way muscles move under skin, the way feathers overlap, the way fur lies. Artistic skill that wouldn't look out of place in a modern natural history museum. They organized thousands of workers. Had to. The math doesn't work otherwise. Moving those stones, carving those pillars, constructing those circles, it required massive coordinated labor, which means they had to feed those workers, house them, manage them, coordinate their efforts, develop specialized skills and roles, quarrying experts, stone carvers, construction workers, logistics coordinators. They planned the entire complex. This wasn't random. The stone circles aren't scattered haphazardly. They're laid out according to specific patterns. They're astronomically aligned with solstices and equinoxes. They follow precise geometric relationships. This required surveying, mathematics, engineering knowledge, abstract thinking, long-term planning. They built massive stone temples, not simple shelters, not storage pits, not defensive walls. Temples, places of worship, of ceremony, of art, of coming together. This required shared belief systems, cultural cohesion, social hierarchy, leadership, organization at a scale we're told shouldn't exist for another 6,000 years. Hook 5, 730. And then here's the part that makes zero sense. Absolutely zero. They buried it. I'm not talking about abandoned it. I'm talking about deliberately erasing it from existence. Not because of war. Excavations show no evidence of destruction, no burned layers, no weapons scattered around, no bodies showing signs of violence, no signs of conquest or conflict. Not because of natural disaster, no earthquake damage. The pillars aren't toppled or shattered, no flood deposits, no layers of volcanic ash, no indication of environmental catastrophe. They chose to hide it deliberately, carefully, systematically filled the entire complex with dirt and rubble, tons and tons of it. They brought it in manually, wheelbarrow after wheelbarrow, basket after basket, over years, decades, maybe generations of backbreaking labor just to bury what their ancestors built. They buried the pillars, covered the carvings they'd spent years creating, sealed the temples, erased it from the landscape, made it disappear completely, and then walked away, left, abandoned the site, never came back, never mentioned it, never recorded why. The knowledge was lost, forgotten, for 11,000 years. Why would anyone do that? Why spend generations, maybe centuries, building something so magnificent, so massive, requiring such incredible resources and skill and coordination, just to bury it deliberately and walk away? What possible reason could there be? Schmidt had theories. He thought maybe there was a religious shift, a change in beliefs that made the old temples unacceptable, that they had to be sealed, hidden, destroyed without destroying them. But that doesn't quite fit. If it was about rejecting old beliefs, why bury so carefully? Why not just smash the pillars? Why preserve while hiding? Other researchers think maybe there was environmental change, climate shift, drought, something that forced them to leave. But if they were leaving, why spend years burying everything? Why not just leave it standing? Why invest that much time and labor into concealment? A few researchers, and they only talk about this privately, never on the record, whisper about something else, something they found, something they uncovered or discovered or unleashed, something that terrified them so much, so completely, that they had to hide everything, bury the entire complex, seal whatever it was away forever. But that sounds like science fiction, like a movie plot, except sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. Hook 6, 9 o'clock. Here's where it gets absolutely insane. And I mean insane. Walk through Göbekli Tepe today. You can visit it. It's open to tourists. There's a modern shelter built over part of it now. Walkways, information placards. You can see it with your own eyes. You'll see massive stone circles rising from the earth, T-shaped pillars standing like silent giants, like sentinels from a forgotten age. Some are 18 feet tall as a two-story building, weighing 16 tons each, every single one carved from a single piece of limestone. No joints, no seams, solid stone shaped with impossible precision, dozens of them, arranged in perfect circles. The largest circles discovered so far are over 60 feet across. That's wider than a tennis court. And remember, this is only what's been excavated, only 5%. Ground-penetrating radar shows at least 15 more complete circles underground, maybe 20, each potentially larger and older than the ones already exposed. But here's what you won't see when you visit. No houses, zero. No evidence anyone lived there. No trash heaps, no cooking areas, no storage facilities, no graves, no domestic structures whatsoever. Just temples, pure temples, in the middle of nowhere, miles from any water source, in a landscape that couldn't support a large permanent population, which means these people traveled here from hundreds of miles away, through dangerous territory, bringing food, bringing supplies, for ceremonies, for gatherings, for rituals, for something so important it justified that incredible journey. What was worth that? What was happening here? Hook 7, 10:30. And you won't believe what archaeologists say when you confront them about this. Ask them directly, what does Göbekli Tepe mean for our understanding of human history? Watch their faces. Watch how carefully they choose every single word. It's fascinating. It challenges some assumptions. We need more evidence. Every answer hedged, every statement qualified, like they're terrified of saying too much. Push harder, press them. Does this prove our timeline is completely wrong? They'll dodge, they'll deflect, they'll talk about ongoing research and preliminary findings and need for peer review. But talk to them privately, away from cameras, off the record, after a few drinks when they think no one's listening. One archaeologist, and I'm not naming them because they'd lose their job, told me this exact quote: "If we fully accept what Göbekli Tepe implies, if we actually acknowledge what it means, we have to rewrite every textbook, All of them, every museum exhibit, every documentary, every university course, the entire narrative of human development collapses, and nobody wants to be the one responsible for that. Do you understand? The professional consequences would be devastating, career-ending. You'd be blacklisted, called a pseudoscientist, a conspiracy theorist. It's easier, much easier, to just call it an anomaly and move on with your research. Think about that for a second. Really think about it. There's physical, tangible evidence that directly contradicts our established understanding of history, but it's being systematically downplayed, minimized, explained away as an anomaly because the truth is too inconvenient, too disruptive, too dangerous to the established academic order. Hook 8, 12 o'clock. And here's what really keeps researchers up at night. The site is only 5% excavated. 5%. Ground-penetrating radar shows at least 20 more massive circles underground. The entire hill is riddled with structures. And the crazy part, each excavated layer is older than the last. The deepest ones are the most sophisticated, the most advanced. That's backwards. Usually older structures are more primitive, but here, the oldest are the best made, which means these people didn't develop this skill here. They already knew how to build when they arrived. So where did they learn? Where are the earlier versions? We haven't found them. Hook 9, 1330. Now here's where things get really disturbing. Schmidt believed there were answers buried deeper, answers about where these people came from, what they knew. He died before finding them. And now, excavation has slowed to a crawl. Why? Officially preservation concerns. The Turkish government says they need to protect what's uncovered, but entire sections are off limits. Photography is banned in certain areas. Some pillars have been reburied, access heavily restricted, researchers denied permits, funding cut. Some quietly asked to stop publishing. Hook 10 to 1500. What are they hiding? One researcher told me they excavated a pillar with carvings that don't match anything else, symbols that look like writing. But writing shouldn't exist this early. They documented it, photographed it, started to publish. Their permit was revoked, photographs confiscated. The pillar was unstable and had to be reburied immediately. Another team found what appeared to be astronomical calculations, precise measurements, geometric proofs, mathematical concepts. Again, impossible for this time period. Again, shut down. Hook 11 to 1630. And the conspiracy goes deeper. Whispers of chambers deeper underground, sealed rooms, artifacts that don't fit the timeline, evidence of technology that shouldn't exist. But just whispers, nothing official, because anyone who tries to document it loses access. They built this magnificent complex, spent decades, maybe centuries, then deliberately buried it. What were they hiding from, or what were they hiding? Hook 12, 1800. Here's what nobody is talking about. Göbekli Tepe was discovered in the 60s. American archaeologists found it during a survey. They noted carved stones in their reports, and then filed it away. Never mentioned it again for 30 years. Why? Why find something like that and walk away? Unless someone told you to. Schmidt only got access because he was persistent, fought for years, had to overcome resistance from other archaeologists who didn't want him there. Why the resistance? What were they afraid he'd find? Final hook, 1900. What if this isn't the only site they're hiding? What if there are dozens of places like Göbekli Tepe? What if this sophistication existed all over the world? What if there was a global civilization we've forgotten? And what if someone knows and is actively hiding it? The site sits there, 95% underground, holding secrets from a civilization we're told never existed. The people who know the most, they're doing everything possible not to dig deeper. Maybe some truths are too dangerous, maybe the implications are too massive, or maybe we're just not ready. But here's what keeps me up at night. The Turkish government controls this site, but who advises them? Who decides which areas are too fragile? Who determines which researchers get access? These aren't rhetorical questions. These are real decisions being made right now, today. And someone is deciding that the world isn't ready for certain discoveries. Drop your theories below. What do you think is buried under Göbekli Tepe? Is this just about preservation? or something else. And if this shattered everything you thought you knew about history, you need to subscribe right now, because Göbekli Tepe isn't alone. There are more sites like this, sites that contradict everything we've been taught, sites powerful people don't want you to know about. And we're exposing every single one. This is just the beginning. We're going deep, and what comes next will blow your mind even more. See you in the next one.